We're on Daf Nun Beis Amid Beis. From Asnisin, the Gemara asks, "The Gazel di Da." Our Mishnah is talking about a case where he stole something from Harishus, a Kalkal Shalta Einim, and so forth and so on. Ukama Rav, and yet Rav said Einim Kudeshes. Rav was medayik from our Mishnah that only because it was Shnas Shvius and the pairs were Hefker, therefore the Kiddushin were valid in the other three women. But on any other years of the Shvita cycle, she would not be Mekudeshes, the pairs Gzul and Mirshusan. So you see the Rav holds that even if he's Mekadesh the Isha with a Chayfetz that he stole from Harishus, it's not a valid Kiddush. We don't say that she was Mocheles. And the Gemara answers, Lo Kasha, Hadish Shadich, Vadelo Shadich. We should make the distinction between a case where Rav's case, where he was Mekadesh B'Gzela Shala Isha. And the question is, were they Meshudachos? And if there was already a previous Shidduchim, then we assume that when she received this Kiddushin, then she is Mekudeshes. But in a case in the Brisa where he was Mekadesh her without a previous prior Shidduchim, there we say that she's not Mocheles on the Gzela, and his Kavana is only to take something from her that belongs to her and be Mekadesh. And the Tosri Azokin points out here that even in this case, there was no Shidduchim from the beginning, if at the time that he gave it to her, the Gzela, she said, and he said, Mekudeshli, she said, Ken, then she's definitely Mekudeshes. Gemara tells the following story with regard to Kiddushin B'Gzela. He Isisa. There was a story with a woman, Dahavi Ka Mashia Kare B'Vishichla Dam Demaya. She was washing her feet with a sefel of water. A man grabbed Zuzim from his friend, gave it to her. And he said to her, with these stolen modes. And that person came in front of Rava to ask if his Kiddushin were chal or not. Omar Rava says, less the chash lahadar of Shimon the Omar stam gzeli yesh bailim. No one accepts the view or even worries about the view of Rav Shimon, who says that gzela is yesh bailim havi, that the nigzal whose object was stolen from him in the middle of the day, like at gunpoint or something, that he immediately has yesh. No. We're going to assume not like Reb Shimon. There's no yesh because since he recognizes the Gazlan, he'll track him down, bring him into Beis Din, and get his money back. It's only in the case of a Geneva, that's where Stam yesh, where he doesn't know, he can't even recognize the guy who stole from him, the burglar. So according to Reb Shimon, you can be Mekadesh and Isha B'Gzela. Why? We have a combination of Yehush Bailim together with Shini Rishus. And with Yehush and Shini Rishus, he's Kohen the Gzela. But according to Chachamim, who rejected Reb Shimon, they hold that the Bailim are not Messiahish, and therefore the Gzela doesn't belong to him, and his Kiddushin is not valid. Hu Arisa was a case of a sharecropper who works the karka of the Balas Soda, and in return, as compensation, he gets half the payros. Kaddish b'moza de shamche, and he filled up his hands with the head part of the onion from the field, and he's mekadesh and isha, and he never got rishus from the Balas Soda. So coming to Rav, and Rav said, "Omalei man achalach." Did the owner of the soda, was he mochel? And you took your half without rishus, that's gzela. However, hanibili b'moza, that only applies if he was mekadesh and isha with Rashi B'Tzolim, and he filled up his hands with Rashi B'Tzolim ein godlam yodua. We don't know exactly how large they are, and therefore we don't know which of these b'sal belong to the Baal Soda, which belong to the art. Samal Kisha, if he was Mekadisha with an Agudas B'Tzolim, a whole group of onions, a cluster of onions, and we know exactly their size and their weight, it's kavua, then Motzi Omar Le, the Oris could say to the Balasoda, no, Shakli Kisha, Shokolat Kisha. I'll take one aguda of Bitzolim, you take a corresponding aguda Bitzolim. And Kisha ki Kisha, each Kisha is worth the exact same amount. It weighs the exact same amount. And therefore she's Mekudeshes. Hahu Sarsia. There's a story of a poel. And he was producing beer from dates of the Balabayas, this worker. And as compensation, he would take half of the Shechar, the Kaddish Befruma de Shikra. And he was Mekadosh and Isha with the psoles of these tamarim, of these dates for which they make beer. Also, Mari de Shikra va'ashkeche. The Baal HaShechar finds that he was Mekadosh and Isha, Amalei. So the Baal HaShechar says to the Poel, Amai lo tesed mehai charifa. Why don't you take from the better min hameshubach biyoser? Also coming to Rava, Amalo. Rava said, Lo omru klachet to yofas olinyan truma bilvad. If a person went ahead and he was mafresh truma on behalf of the Balabayas, and then without asking the Balabayas for a shus, and then the Balabayas came back and he said, Klachet to yofas, why don't you give a better quality? Then the truma is valid. This side we learned to the Brisa. Kate said, Omru Toreim Shalomidas Truma so Truma. Aresha Yorad Lutoch Sodach Avero Velike Vitoram Shalorishus. Im Choshesh Mishum Gezel is Ein Truma so Truma. Vim Lav Truma so Truma Nai in Hoyodea. Im Choshesh Mishum Gezel. Im Lav Aresha Babal Baisa Mitzo Miamalo. Why aren't you mafresh from the better quality payros? In Nimtzi Yafas, and there are actually better quality, superior quality payros. Truma so Truma is valid. Lav. But if we can't find any payros that are better than the ones that he was mafresh, ain't Truma so Truma, because then we're going to assume Shalom is coming balabaisa laknito. He was just trying to needle him. Lomar ilu ayisi motza ilu ayisa motza peiros yofim. Then you would steal those. However, if the Baal goes down and he adds truma to the truma that was already nitra benkach ubenkach, whether or not they're better quality peiros or not, truma so truma. But this din is a separate din by a fresh's truma, since the peiros are owned in the Mela Lafrasha. And therefore, when he says, the Babai says, Hayul Chalafrish in Peiros Yofim Yosir, we assume that it was Nichale. Aval Hacha by Makadish Isha B'Sheicha Shal Balabayis, even though the Balabayis said to him, you know what, you could have taken a superior quality beer, Mishum Kisufu Da'avid. He only did that in order not to be Mavayish, the Makadesh, by pronouncing out loud and publicizing the fact that he stole this sheikhar. But really the Balabayis is makvin on this, and therefore in Mekudeshes. Now the Mishnah speaks about the din of Makadesh Isha B'Kodshim is Be'er Kodshim Be'er Kabayis, Masechet. HaMakadesh B'Chelko, a man who's a Kohen was Makadesh, a woman, by giving her his chelek that's given to him together with the Kohanim and Karbanos, Bein Kodshei Kodshim, Bein Kodshim Kalam Ein Mekudeshes. The Mishnah invalidates this Kiddushin. It doesn't matter whether it's Chatos and Osham, or whether or not it's Toda and Shlomim, Lo Chalua Kiddushin. Because these chalokim belong to Gavoah. They're not owned privately by the Kohen. It's Mama Gavoah, and it's Mishulchan Gavoah Kazach. And all he has is rights to eat it. If a man was Makadesh and Isha B'Maiser Sheni, the Mishnah continues, Bein Shogeg, Bein Mezid, Lo Kiddush Devir Meir. Reb Meir is of the opinion that whether or not he was unaware of the fact that these were Paris Meiser Sheni, that's called Shogeg, or he was aware of the fact that they were Meiser Sheni, nevertheless, there's no Chalos Kiddushin because Meiser Sheni is Mama Gavoa, and you can't be Mekadesh a woman unless you give her that which is yours. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, B'Shogeg lo Kidesh, but B'Mezid Kidesh. Rabbi Yehuda holds the Meiser Sheni is Mama Bailet. However, B'Shogeg, if he didn't know that he was giving a Meiser Sheni lo Kidesh, and that's called Kiddushay Tos, which the Gemara is going to explain later on. And the assumption is, again, he and she are not eager or interested in being Mekadesh with Meiser Sheni, but amazing if he knew very well this was Meiser Sheni, is Mekadesh or the Kidesh, the Kiddushin is Chal, and the reason for that is it's Mamona. Ubehegdesh, if the Mekadesh was Mekadesh with Kodshe Berek Habayis, with his Me'ilah, B'mezid, if he did it B'mezid, is Kiddush. The Kiddushin Achal, presumably because since he was amazing, this Chal Kiddushasan, V'yatzu Meishus Hegdesh L'chulin, and therefore he's Mekadesh with his own mother. However, B'Shogeg, where there's no din of Chilul HaKidushas Hegdesh, Lo Kiddush, it's not his, and that's called Kiddushay Toasted Rav Meir. Rav Yehuda meant just the opposite. It's B'Shogeg Kiddush. If he was Mekadesh her with Hegdesh Berek Habayis B'Shogeg, then the Kiddushin Achal, because Rabbi Yehuda holds that the Ilo only applies to Shogeg. Kevin Shemol Yotza Hegdesh L'chulin Nimsa Shekidsha B'Dover Shubimona. And there's no chash here of Kiddushay Tos, according to Rabbi Yehuda, in contrast with Rabbi Meir. But B'mezid lo Kiddush. Why? Because B'mezid lo Moal Ein Me'ilu B'mezid, and therefore lo Yotza Hegdish L'chulim, and Imsa Shekidsha B'Dover Sheina Shalo. And the Gemara on Daf Nun Gimel is going to explain this in great detail. Name of Masnisin to Lok Rabbi Yossi HaGlili. Rabbi Yossi HaGlili holds that Kodshim Kalim are considered Momon Bailim. So why should the Kedusha be Chal? The Sanya, as we learned in the Brisa, how does Rabbi Yossi HaGlili derive the conclusion that Kodshim Kalim are Momon Bailim? The Pasuk says, Vayikra Hey, Nefesh ki sechtu mol mal b'Hashem, v'kichesh b'miso b'pikadon, v'nishba al shoker. So the Shomer was given a pikadon. He was kofer b'pikadon. He took a shvua sheker, and now he turns around and he is modin. So he has to return the pikadon plus a tosefes chomesh, and he has to bring a korban hasham zelos for sham meilos for what? For shvua sheker. And the Gemara darshins the following: Umala mal bashem. It could have just said Umala mal v'kichesh mamiso. The extra bashem is l'rabos kodshim kalim shehein mamono divrei Rabbi Yossi HaGlili. That if he was makrish in kodshim kalim and he took a shvua sheker and then he was moda, nevertheless, even though he's being magdish and nishbar kodshei shamayim, is Rabbi Yossi HaGlili holds one second. That even though he doesn't bring a korban asham, because kodshei shamayim are excluded from a korban asham, but nevertheless, shehein mamona. So again, from the perspective of the chelik, that's legavoa. That's a fulfillment of Bashem v'kichesh. And from the part of it that's moment bailim, it's v'kichesh ba'misa. So Kodshim Kalim is Momon Bailim, and therefore, if he's Makadesh and Isha with Kodshim Kalim, then she's Mekudeshes. No, Gemara says Afilu Tema Rabbi Yossi Aglili Ki Omar Rabbi Yossi Aglili Kodshim Kalim is Momon Bailim. That's only in the Chelik HaBailim B'Shlomim Mechayim before the Shchita Sazeva. Aval Yachar Shchita Lo Omar Ke. And there, even Rabbi Yossi Aglili agrees that after Shechita, the Basar HaZevach is Mama Gavor. My timer, Ki Kazachu, Mishul Gavor Kazachu. After Shechita, Rabbi Yossi concedes that when the Kohanim have a Zechus in the Chelek HaBaila B'Karban, that's after Shechita, that's only Mishul Gavor Kazachu. They can have the Ketani be Hamakadesh Bechelko Bein Kodshim Kodshim Bein Kodshim Kam Lo Kidesh Shmamina. We know that we're talking about Kiddushin Bechelko, and Chelko means that portion that was designated for him after the Shechita Nakrova, and Dafka in that case, the Kiddushin and Achal. Toner Rabbanon, we learned in the Brisa. Liachar P'tiras Rav Meir Amlem Rav Yudel Talmid Aval Yikonsu Talmidei Rabbi Meir Lekan. I don't want Rabbi Meir's Talmidim to come into our base medrash. Mibnei shekantronim him. They want to be maknit. Lo lilmod Torah ein boim. They don't come to study Torah. El lekapcheni ba'alochas ein boim. They just want to be maksha and reject and try to prove that using their charifus that I'm wrong. Dochak Suchas, but Suchas, who was a special, outstanding Talmud of Rabbi Meir, Nichnas, he pushed himself in, even though Rabbi Yehuda didn't want him. Amalem Suchas said to Rabbi Yehuda in his Talmudim, Kach Shona li Rabbi Meir. Here's what I learned from my Rabbi Meir. Kohen HaMakadesh Lisha Bechelko, the chelik that's given to him from Shar Kohen B'Karbanos is Bein Kodshi Kodshi Bein Kodshi Kan Lo Kidesh. The Kiddushin is not valid. And Suchas really wanted to find out, did Rabbi Yehuda agree to this? Because Rabbi Yehuda Lim, Amalahem, why did you let him in? Lo kach amarti l'chem al yikonsu mitalmidei Rabbi Meir l'kam neishe kantronim him v'lo lilmod Torah bonim el l'kam cheni ba'alochas ein boim. And I'll prove it to you that he's really not interested in asking a true question. A woman doesn't go into the Azara. If she does, it's very rare. So how can it be that he was Mekadesh of a Kodshim, which cannot be brought out of the Azara? So from the fact that Suchos is asking a question that couldn't be b'mitzius, that's Almanas Lekanter, and therefore Rabbi Yehuda gets angry and he doesn't even bother responding to him. Amar Rabbi Yossi, I can't be quiet and silent simply because of the covet of Rabbi Yehuda without clarifying Rabbi Meir. Yomru, they'll say the Talmidim that Rabbi Meir Shachav, Rabbi Meir passed on, and there's no one around to explain his rulings. And Rabbi Yehuda Kas, Rabbi Yehuda gets angry. And Rabbi Yossi Shasak, I didn't say a word. Divrei Torah Mate'ele. What we're going to do with Divrei Torah? Somebody has to clarify Rabbi Meir. And that's what I'm going to do by saying, with the Ein Adam Osa L'Kabel Kiddushin L'Pito Ba'Azora. A father will be Mekadesh his Isha, his Bas, who's a Ketana Nara, in the Azora. The Ein Isha Suya Lasos Lo Shliach L'Kabel Kiddushin Ba'Azora. Maybe she sent the Shliach to receive the Kiddushin from the Kohen in the Azora. And not only that, maybe she pushed herself in against the will of the Chachamim, maybe into the Azora. So Rabbi Meir is not just saying something lorik. Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, Rabbi Yudo Mekudeshes. A kohen is mekadosh b'chelko, korban is mekudeshes. Rabbi Yossi Omer enu mekudeshes. Rabbi Yomi Shnei Mikra Echad Darshu. They both derive their din from one pasuk, each one with a different interpretation of the pasuk. Shenemar, the pasuk about Midbar Yudches, Fe Ze Yeh Lecha Mikodesh Kadosh Min Ha'esh. Rabbi Yehuda Savar Lecha. The word Lecha is redundant because in the previous pasuk it says Va'ani Hineni Hinei Nasati Lach Esh Misaris Truma. So why did the Torah have to say Lecha? Lecha. It means it's yours not just to eat it, but also to Mekadosh and Isha with it. Rabbi Yossi Savar Mina Eish. The Torah didn't have to add those two words, Mina Eish. We know that we're talking about Karbonos, as it says in the next part of the pasuk called Karbonom. So why did he be mocked in the words Mina Eish? Elokei Eish. It's Domel Masha Maktim in a Karbon al Eish Shalom Mizbech Ma. Chelik shala eish lachila is afhu, even the chelikonim nami lachila. It's specifically for them, for achil, but not to be mekadosh on isha. And now the Gemara has a machlokas whether Rabbi Yehuda rescinded his original position and he conformed and conceded to the position of the Chachamim that a Makadesh Bechelko B'Korbanei Mekudeshes on Rabbi Yochanan here on the top of the Gimel and Aleph Nimnu V'Gamru, and apparently even Rabbi Yehuda was part of the vote. So Makadesh Bechelko Bein B'Kodshim Kodshim Bein B'Kodshim Kam Lo Kidesh Lo Chalo Kiddushin. But for Rav Omar Adayin he Machlokas, and Rabbi Yehuda was not Chosebo. This is where we'll stop for today. Wishing you a Chag Sameach.